David Polinchock, you are an expert on brand experience with your company, the Brand Experience Lab. What exactly is your profession?
Well, we do a couple of things. I'm a storyteller and theater person by nature and background, so I've taken those skills and brought them into the brand world. So the lab was set up about 7 years ago to do two things. One, it was to help these companies understand the emerging technologies that were coming out, things like group games, as we did with audience games, and things like augmented reality and Twitter and all these new tools so that people can understand them. But then at the front side, what we do is make people understand that unless they're telling a great story, however that gets defined, none of these tools matter. They just become tactics. They're not really helpful to move the brand along.
So, and are you especially focused on the internet right now?
No, oddly enough, we spend most of our time offline. And where we're really looking right now is what that intersection is between the online world and the offline world. So how do things like augmented reality come into play? And what will happen in a world where we can overlay information onto the world we're actually walking around in? I think one of the interesting things that we see is in a world where we have Wikipedia and Google and I can get all this information, we believe it's even more frustrating for people when they're in a physical place and they can't get information that they need. So, geo-targeting and all of this appropriate information. I don't want to walk down the street and have coupons beamed to my cell phone, but I do want to walk down the street and take a picture of a QR code and find out what the building is that I'm looking at.
Yeah. Most of those issues are very technical, maybe too a little too difficult for many people. Do you think it will grow big in a short period of time?
I think what will happen is, as with all technologies, right now there's cool stuff being done, but there's not necessarily compelling reasons.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at what happened with the early cell phones, I mean, you only had a cell phone if you were like the president of a country or, some top heart surgeon or somebody that people needed to get a hold of 24/7. And now, 10-year-olds have cell phones. Everybody has a cell phone. So, what happens is we start with the technology, a small group of people adopt it because it's particularly important to what they do. And then as the content gets developed, then more and more people want to get involved. So you see it already, look at GPS. GPS was a small adoption rate at the beginning. The units were expensive. I don't think I've been in a car here in Holland that didn't have a GPS system. So, and now we're finding more uses for them. Now instead of the GPS just telling me how to get from point A to point B, I can tell the GPS that I want to find a restaurant that serves Thai food with 3-star or better rating, and it will show them on the map to me. So as we find these new uses for the new technologies, people will adopt them faster.
Yeah. You discussed augmented reality. You already mentioned it. This still sounds a little bizarre and exotic to people.
Yeah.
Can you define it in a very simple way?
We define it as the combination of the real world and the virtual world. So it would be overlaying information onto the world. So it might be overlaying addresses. We've seen some really interesting demos where as you walk down a street and you look at a building, it's simply telling you what the address of the building is. We've seen, of course, the one that everybody's been excited about has been the MIT Media Lab's Sixth Sense concept, where it's really projecting information. So it might be product information. I might pick up a product and it will beam onto the product how green the product is, or whatever the criteria are that are important to me. They do some interesting things where it's actually beaming information onto other people. And I'm not sure we want to go that far, at least in the short term, but I think that's where it will go, where we're really taking all that information that lives on the internet and putting it into the real world, which is where we live.
Mm-hmm. And do you think it will be adopted soon, augmented reality?
I think we're probably 18 months away from it really being, a critical mass start to thing. I think I'm going to blank on the name now, but there's a couple of iPhone apps that use augmented reality. There's a wiki something or other which is a tourist program. So as you look at items through your iPhone, it overlays tourist information on the place that you're in. So I think we'll start to see a lot more, especially as it becomes more available on cell phones and there's more people using cell phones and the video cameras on cell phones. I think we'll see a lot more of it, maybe a little bit sooner.
Okay. And last question, what company, in your opinion, is using this kind of experiencing devices the best way?
Well, there's a couple. There have been a couple good examples right now. BMW did a great intro augmented reality piece in print magazines last year, where if you took the ad from the magazine and put it in front of your web camera, it put a Mini Cooper on top of the ad page. And I think people like that a lot. Lego now has an in-store augmented reality system where when you hold the box up of the product, it builds a 3D model of the product on top of the box so you can see what it looks like in a completed way. And it has some level of interactivity. So if it's a fire truck, the ladder goes up and down and things like that. There's been some really cool medical things and things outside of the advertising. And the one that I think is getting some attention now because of the content is that there's now an augmented reality Enterprise from Star Trek. And I think, it's the Enterprise at Star Trek, so, a lot of people are playing with it. Mm-hmm. Those are probably some of the ones that are doing the best right now.
Okay. And, one final question.
Sure.
What online tool do you prefer best? What tool do you you can do without?
Probably Twitter right now, even though I make fun of Twitter all the time. But I think I'm on Twitter a lot. I meet a lot of people through Twitter. And I think for brands it's really important to be able to get that real-time information about what people are saying about you. It's nice to get Google alerts, and you should definitely keep doing those kind of things. What's interesting about Twitter is there's a legal term that I think is excited utterance. When I write a blog post, I think about it. So I'm determining what I'm going to say. It's not, I'm not necessarily just flowing. When you're doing Twitter, a lot of times Twitter is just a thought that's in your head that very moment. I'm at this store and it's great, or I'm at this store and it sucks, or I just had dinner at this restaurant and it's fantastic, whatever it is. But it's really in the moment. And I think that's what makes Twitter kind of cool for brands to start following. Not all brands need to use Twitter necessarily, but they should be following Twitter so that they can see what people are saying about them.
Okay. David Polinchock, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Yeah.